This is Friday Freedom from Fear for October the 31st, 2025, here on Following Him, the Disciple Life. We are freed from being afraid of the dark. If you are really following and believing the teachings of the Messiah, if you are following the teachings of God, even back into Old Testament times, following the teachings of God, of Yahweh, you are freed from being afraid of the dark. Psalm 91 verse 5 talks about you should not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day. Now, in direct context here, terror by night, while that kind of sounds like a scary movie of some sort, it's in contrast with the arrow that flies by day. So we're talking about human attack. Yet, this being addressed to believers of Yahweh, if they are fully believing what is taught in the teachings of Yahweh, this could be extended to these fears that people have created for societies, these things that people have imagined throughout time, these false things that Scripture does not teach are real. I mean, Scripture does teach that there are real dark spiritual forces aligned against us. But every single one that mankind has invented, Scripture doesn't teach that that's true. You know, in Jeremiah 10:5, in talking about idols, and of course that by extrapolation is talking about false gods and goddesses. What does he say? At the end of that verse, he says, "Do not be afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, nor can they do any good." And so that's talking about a false god, much less some sort of mischievous, evil spirit thing that people have thought up. You know, throughout time, people have invented all kinds of different spirit beings. You know, in recent times, it's been the revenant, the vampire, the werewolf, all these things. These things we're afraid of in the dark. And this isn't saying that if you're a Christian, you should just go down any dark alley and not, take any caution whatsoever. But the stuff we get caught in our imagination. So we understand the spirit realm as it is. We understand that there are spiritual forces aligned against us that want us to sin and be lost. Now that we need to be on guard against. Satan going around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may consume. Yes, but that consumption is what? It's not actually physical stuff. He wants you condemned. He wants you lost. That's his goal. So when it comes to these things that man has imagined, 1 Corinthians 8 verse 4, the latter part of the verse, what is it Paul said about the idols? These things that represented to these pagan societies their various deities that they worshiped. He said, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, that there is no other God but one. So if we don't have to worry about false gods and goddesses, then these other things that we have no evidence in Scripture are real. We don't have to fear those things either. Once again, don't go walking down a dark alley somewhere without taking any precaution. But we don't have to be afraid of the dark. You don't have to be afraid of the spooks. You don't have to be afraid of the things that mankind has imagined, but once again, Scripture does not teach are real. We need to be on guard against the spiritual forces aligned against us. But as Christians, embrace what Scripture teaches in Ecclesiastes 9 when it has talked there about the dead knowing nothing, that is talking about knowing things of this world anymore. When the dead go on, they go on. They go on to the afterlife. They're not interacting normally in this realm. We'll do a video someday on that, explaining that further. We are freed from being afraid of the dark. You have a great rest of the day, and shalom.